Faith is the belief in things that you cannot see. You can never lose faith. That's the key. You have to believe in something that you can't see. You have to believe when you don't see no way how. You have to buckle down and keep believing. God is always coming. Here's the deal. The moment you ask God for something, he boxes it up and he ships it to you. Here's the problem with the package. He never gives you the date that it's going to arrive. It's going to come. He just don't tell you when. If he told you when, it would destroy the relationship that's required to have an abundant life, which is faith.
God has a great plan for your life, something more than you've imagined. But that plan won't come to pass without opposition, things you don't understand, things that are not fair. God doesn't take us in a straight line. There will be detours, delays, even some dead ends. You come to a Red Sea, you face a Goliath. It seems like a setback, but really it's a setup. Feels like it's stopping your destiny. The fact is, it's leading you to your destiny. The test is to keep the faith. You'll be tempted to get discouraged, give up on your dreams. God, why did this happen? God wouldn't have allowed it if it was going to stop your purpose. His ways are not our ways. Faith is trusting when you don't understand. It's believing when all your circumstances say it's never going to work out. It's knowing that God is on the throne, that His plans for you are for good, that what He has purposed for your life will come to pass.
What you thought life should produce, what you hope life would produce, is not being produced. And you're in a barren season of no life. And that's after Jesus promised, I have come to give you life and to give it to you more abundantly. But right now, you're in a season of barrenness. You're not getting pregnant. That is, there is nothing being birthed in you. Your passion is gone. Your purpose is gone. Your destiny seems dim. Your get up and go spiritually has gotten up and gone. Don't ever let the facts cancel out the faith. But verse 11 says, by faith, she got the ability to conceive. When you've been trusting God for something and God hasn't come through, it's to retreat to the flesh. The flesh is a human approach to solve a problem different than the way God wants it done. I know some of you have been waiting for God for a long time. You've been trusting God for a while. God is still developing your faith. The problem looks bigger than the promise. But the reason God gives us her age is to let us know, or let you and I know, that when God finally comes through in giving His promise, He gave her time to enjoy it. So once you get this faith thing right, and once you act in faith, and once God comes through, if it's a promise for you, He'll give you enough time to maximize your enjoyment and participation in it, but He won't do it as long as you keep going to the flesh.
And He said, did I not tell you, if you would only believe, you would see the glory of God? We believe what we don't see. That's what faith is. Faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Once you see, then you don't need faith anymore. Faith means you have it in your heart before you have it in your circumstance. But it really can be just as good as having it if you really trust and believe God. Still today, right now today, if you have never had the blessing of really entering the rest of God, today, that promise still is available to you. Those of you who came in here frustrated, you can leave in the rest of God. And if you can understand by the power of the Spirit what I'm trying to share today, you can come to a place where you never really have to live frustrated. Now, we get upset and we get frustrated, but I tell you what, we don't have to stay that way, because once you realize that you've gotten out of the rest of God, you can get back in just as quick as you got out. You can't live in the rest of God if you're angry. You can't live in the rest of God if you're worried and frustrated all the time and trying to make things happen that only God can make happen in your life.
He says, therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God. He says we're sanctified by faith. That is, we walk by faith. We live by faith. The Christian life is a life of faith. That is, it is a life in which we have confidence in the fact that God, who is the sovereign of this universe, will do exactly what he says he'll do, and that he will fulfill every single promise he's made. Now, how we walk, for example, we will stumble sometimes, and we will move ahead positively. We will study it, we'll fumble and fall around and thank God, why isn't this coming out exactly right? Why is it, if I'm trusting you here, and next thing I know, I've disobeyed you over here, so let me just say right up front, as a word of encouragement. It isn't a straight line upward. The development of a person's faith is up, and then we stumble at times, and up, and then we falter at times, and up, and then we fail to trust him at times. And that's the way life is in the beginning of the Christian life. And for many people, it seems to be that way all the time. But that's not what God intended. He intended, listen, even though we have those ups and downs, that's okay as long as we're still making progress in our faith.
That door that closed, you didn't like it, but God was ordering your steps. That person that walked away, it was painful, but it was a part of God's plan. You didn't need them for your destiny. That contract you lost, the child that's difficult to raise, that tough season at work, it may not be good now, but if you'll keep the faith, all things are going to work together for your good. God knows how to bring good out of a bad situation.
Filled with different men and a few women out of different eras who had notable accomplishments by faith, so that we will have a deep respect for faith. We are living in a day and a time in the church that we do have a deep respect for praise. And because we sing songs about praise being a weapon, and sometimes it is, sometimes we do not emphasize faith because faith is not tangible, touchable, does not appeal to the senses. We can't hear it or see it. We have to believe it. And yet the book of Hebrews tells us no matter how talented we may be, as orators, as speakers, as singers, as musicians, as technicians, as producers, as whatever we are, no matter how many degrees we have, no matter how many good deeds we do, no matter how ingratiating our personality might be, the Bible is clear about this, that without faith, it is impossible to please God. And that one verse alone should make us really hone in on the significance of faith, because if we do everything else and we get everything else right, and we have wonderful services, and we bring cookies over to our neighbors, and we say prayers every night, and we do good deeds to people, and we forgive people, and we fail to believe God, it is impossible to please him. If we don't do everything right and we still get the faith right, because faith is a big deal to God.
You have to have a made-up mind that you're in it for the long haul. No matter what comes your way, you're going to keep believing, keep trusting, keep praising, keep dreaming, knowing that God has you in the palm of his hand, that he's working behind the scenes, that he has the final say. He said, no weapon formed against you will ever prosper. He said what was meant for your harm, he would turn to your advantage. God being for you is more than the world being against you. Went through a rough childhood, but I kept the faith. Didn't get that scholarship, but I kept the faith. Friend walked out on me. Boss got on my nerves. Went through cancer, but I kept the faith. You have to get to the point where you're not moved by disappointment, not moved by opposition, not moved by the medical report. Yes, it doesn't look good, but there's another report. God says he's restoring health back into me. You can stay in peace knowing that God has the final say.
So the enemy knows it, whether you know it or not, and he does everything he can to uproot your faith and make you doubt. And he makes you doubt by talking, because faith comes by hearing.